Alright, it has been a while since I've done one of these videos. I've been kind of waiting to finalize what my plans will be, but it's looking like this is what I'm going to be playing for the rest of the year, actually. It looks like coincidentally there's going to be something happening every month of this year except December. I'm sure there will be something in December. Obviously, I've got a couple service games under my belt. I've got KOF All Star, which is probably going to get some major updates soon, and then Avengers, if they fix that game. I'm actually enjoying that game a little bit more. I managed to get the frame rate working properly, but the game is still functionally a mess in many ways. But if they manage to turn it around, I will continue to play that game. Anyway, let's go ahead and go through this in chronological order. First thing is the new class on PSO2. I was going to look into getting around to doing this. I need to look at some more gameplay of him. He looks like he might be quite fun. To be honest, I kind of lost interest in PSO2 for the most part when they announced that New Genesis was coming out, and New Genesis is going to be like a Final Fantasy XIV Reborn type thing, where it's basically going to be a brand new game. Nothing will carry over but your cosmetics, so I kind of was weary about investing more time and money into this game when they claim that they're going to continue to support PSO2, but as you know, they always said that there was going to be a 10-year plan for the original PSO2, and we were wondering, the game seems to be winding down. They seem to be wrapping up the story. They have like a big, like Profound Darkness Omega or whatever it's called. They seem to be wrapping up the story, so it kind of makes me apprehensive towards spending more time and money on the game. But still, they're offering some pretty sick rewards here. So once I get all the Avengers and KOF out of my system, I might go ahead and do this. We'll see. No promises. I could probably put out a decent guide, but let's see what's going on here. Senran Kagura collaboration. I'm sure that's going to make tons of money for obvious reasons. 13-star units can be turned into X cubes. 14-star weapons can be sold in shops. That's actually pretty good. I might actually have some weapons in there that might be worth something. We'll see. Looks like that's going to be maybe next week. So they're adding the Battle Pass. I know that the global version of PSO2 has the Battle Pass as well. I'm kind of concerned about that version, honestly, because they're trying to catch up to Japan within like the end of the year. It seems like they could get pretty close to that. I'm sure the coronavirus pandemic is making it a little bit harder, but it kind of feels like there's no point now because they're just going to make a whole new version of the game, and it seems pretty apparent from just how they're updating the game, a lot of the restrictions that they're removing and stuff, and the story pretty much wrapping up. That they're probably not going to support it for long. They're probably going to hold out on their 10-year promise, which they really only have like a year and a half left of this point, and then they're probably just going to keep supporting the new Genesis version. They haven't really shown much about it yet, so I'm kind of on the fence, but at the same time, it's like, why should I put much more time into this when they might not? It might not be around much longer. I'm sure the game will stick around. It's probably going to be like a Final Fantasy 11 type thing where that game's close to like 20 years old now, and it's still getting support, but very sparingly. They go like really long amounts of time without getting updated. That's probably what's going to happen here. We'll see if I feel like playing this class. I'll have to watch some of his gameplay and stuff. Anyway, that's enough of that. That is not set in stone, by the way. That's I don't know. I'll have to see if I feel like investing more time in something that may not have much more life left in it. Oh, there's going to be new information about new Genesis at TGS. There's also going to be the new Muso announcement as well. So that's going to be a pretty exciting time towards the end of this month. Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes drops at the end of October, pretty much right before Halloween. This game actually looks quite cool. It looks like they are taking advantage of the fact that they don't have to have the actors reprising the roles as the voices anymore. And only having three characters is probably going to make the gameplay quite a bit better. They've only shown like maybe a couple minutes of gameplay, but it looks pretty solid. It looks like a pretty big step up in budget and overall gameplay mechanics for the Kamen Rider series. As you know, the past few years they have been experimenting and it hasn't really been working. Climax Fighters was kind of like played a lot like Power Stone. If you liked Power Stone, that game was pretty fun, but the netcode barely functioned. and there was no single player content. And then the second one came out on Switch with 30 FPS cap, and then it had more single player content, but there was no online. So kind of got to both sides of the spectrum there. I didn't play the Switch one. It's like never on sale. If it was like under 2,000 yen or something, I'd be willing to give it a shot. But this looks like it's just going to be better all around. It's just a pure single player kind of character action game. I know that you can switch between the forms at will, so maybe there's some cool stuff you can do there. The boss fights actually look pretty dynamic. It looks like it's not really going to be like Bat Ride War. It's going to be smaller groups of enemies, but they will pose more of a threat, and the bosses are actually going to pose more of a threat too. So I'll be getting this for sure. It is going to be coming out in Southeast Asia, which means that I'll be able to get it on PS4 on my Singapore account. Just be able to grab it off there. Not much else to be said. They still haven't shown much. Maybe they'll show more at TGS or something. Alright, next up is Onichan Bar Origin. This game's been out for almost a year in Japan, but it hasn't hit any other territory yet. It seems like it's finally going to be happening. I'm a little apprehensive how they're charging 60 bucks for this, because like the Onichan Bar games originated, they were like literal budget titles. They were like the equivalent of like 20 or $30 in Japan. I don't know if this game has $60 worth of content. I know somebody in my community, Vito, played it. I'll have to look at his videos. It looks like it's a lot more grounded and slower paced than Z2 Chaos, but Z2 Chaos design-wise was a mess anyway. You had enemies that basically posed no threat, and then you had bosses that could kill you instantly, and you had defensive options that did no damage, and then you had permanent hyper armor, so the crazy tag combos and stuff you could do didn't really matter when you had to basically spec around your berserk mode and then just mash buttons and do the cool combo, because that gave you like a full 10 seconds of invincibility. It seems like this game is much better balanced at the cost of being slower paced, which might not be a bad thing. I don't know if the zombies actually pose a threat or not. It's kind of the weird thing about Z2 Chaos is the characters were like crazy with the stuff that they could do, but the only thing that posed any threat was the bosses, and the bosses weren't really fun to fight because they didn't have mechanics. They were just walls of hyper armor. So hopefully things are more balanced here. I know that there's some kind of stagger mechanic. I guess if you like counter them or something, they turn yellow and you can combo them for a bit. I'm not quite sure how the tagging works either, but I'm willing to give this a shot. The price, I feel, is shooting themselves in the foot, if you ask me. $60 for this when the other games were like way cheaper. I don't know if the game has the equivalent amount of value and replay value and depth, but we'll see. I'll get it anyway. It's going to come out right around the time I get paid, so I'll probably get this with Patreon funds, and then when I get paid with my ad revenue, or if I get donations or whatever, then I'll pay off Memory of Heroes as well. Now finally, this just shadow dropped today. We were wondering if Nintendo was going to have anything for the holiday season. It seemed like they were kind of just going to drift along with, Animal Crossing and Smash Brothers, games that have been out for a while, but they haven't lapsed in interest or potential sales. We thought that they weren't going to have anything, and then they kind of just dropped this out of nowhere. I thought the first Hyrule Warriors was okay. I liked how much content it has. I just didn't like how much bad content it had. There were a lot of characters with shitty movesets, and the game just would pad you and force you to play as them and stuff. And mechanically, the depth of the game was not that great. You kind of just did the same move over and over. There wasn't really much of a combo system. There were some semblances of depth. You had like the item cancels and stuff, but at the end of the day, you pretty much just did your most powerful move endlessly, and that's fun in its own right. It's not like it's a bad game or anything. I definitely put like 70 hours or so into it, but then I got kind of burnt out because it didn't really feel like it was the kind of Muso game for me. I like doing exhibitions because even if the game is devoid of challenge, I can kind of provide a self-imposed challenge for myself and go from there. But Hyrule Warriors didn't really have that kind of application for me. I'll probably check this out. They haven't shown much yet. More is going to be shown at TGS on the 26th, so in about 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. It seems like they may have less characters. I don't know how much replay value this game is going to have, and one of the things that Hyrule Warriors, the original game, had was a ton of replay value. If you liked the gameplay loop, it wasn't for everybody. I wasn't a big fan of it. I feel like I got my $60 worth out of it, but it wasn't something I wanted to take to a high level, because high level in that game is basically just grinding and maxing out your damage and just doing your most powerful charge attack. This one seems like it's going to have a little bit more depth from what little gameplay footage they've shown so far. But like I said, they're going to be announcing more information during TGS. So we'll see. I'll probably get this. I don't really think this game would do well for me, honestly, because it's a first-party Nintendo game. It's not like other Muso games like Orochi and stuff, where I'm one of the only people that's putting out guides for it. There's going to be a ton of just big Nintendo channels playing. I don't know how much I'll have to offer. If I like what they show of the gameplay, I'll probably get this. There's not really going to be anything else going on in November outside of the service games that I'm going to be playing anyway, so I might get it to just kind of have something new to play. There's not really much going on the Steam front right now. It's mostly just service games. Avengers, I actually have been enjoying it a little bit more once you get in parties with people, but the matchmaking is broken, so a lot of times that doesn't work. The I don't know what it is with game developers. I know it's hard to make artificial intelligence, but it always feels one-sided. It's like either the AI that you fight, they'll have like input reading and unfair advantages and stuff, but then like the ally AI is always dumb. There are a lot of objectives in the game that require standing on a point, and you have to. It's kind of like a King of the Hill type thing. There's lots of King of the Hill little mini games and stuff in there, and when you play with people, it's trivial because if the person playing with you has a brain sizer than a peanut, they know to stay and hold the fort and just kind of push enemies away until the point is taken. But when you play with the AI, you can't give them commands or anything, so they basically just endlessly fight the infinitely respawning monsters, or in that game, robots or mobs, whatever you want to call them. And it makes it so much harder. When you can play with actual people, the game is actually quite fun. It's definitely full of artificial difficulty. My concern with it right now is that they're not going to fix the issues fast enough. They're bleeding players. A lot of the mechanics that are designed to keep you playing, like pretty much any service game. KOF they have the battle pass now, and they have the dailies and stuff to keep you playing. Like a lot of those systems, they don't function like a good service game. Like when your main attraction to playing the game is palette swapped costumes, I don't really think that's going to retain a player base, and then you have the issue of the matchmaking doesn't work. And the loot is not that interesting. It definitely feels better than their last attempt at doing kind of a character action beat 'em up, looter, which was Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 last year. I think that game had exponentially more boring loot. I wonder if the people complaining about the loot played Ultimate Alliance 3, because at least in Avengers, the loot is not great. It's nowhere near as interesting as it needs to be, especially the most powerful loot, the exotic tier. But despite that, you can make some pretty decent builds. It's just that there's a lot against you. It's all the bugs, all the glitches, the AI making it a lot harder to solo, artificial difficulty, and then just the RNG of actually getting what you need on the items is really holding it back. I hope that they'll improve the game. I have been begging for a character action looter for a long time. I just wish that this one was Japanese developed, and regardless of who developed it, I wish that the publisher actually gave them enough time to actually finish the damn thing, instead of pushing it out for the beginning of the holiday season when the game is like barely functional. I've definitely had a better experience than most people. It's only crashed on me like maybe 3 or 4 times in 10 hours of gameplay. I have not touched the campaign too. That's been part of it. Apparently, the campaign is like objectively the best part of the game. The end game looting and stuff is kind of like boring because there's not that much enemy or environment variety, but it works far more consistently than the campaign. People are getting stuck out of bounds and triggers aren't loading and stuff. It's a mess. I did get it via a donation, so I probably will be playing it more. I would like to get Black Widow to level 50, and then I'm probably just going to wait for them to do polish patches. They said that there's going to be another one in a week. Hopefully that will fix the optimization. Just even the UI has a lot of issues too. Like you can't run fast in the hub world. You can't lock a gear. You can't mass dismantle it. It just needs a metric ass ton of work. It feels like they should have just skipped this gen and released it on next gen. Maybe like in like February or something, I think the game would have worked a lot better. The problem is they did what all Western publishers do now is they made a beta, which is BS because it's not a beta if the game comes out 3 weeks before release. If the beta is 3 weeks before release, not much can be changed. There were a lot of people on the defense force saying, oh, it's just a beta. The full release is going to be better, and then the full release comes out, and it's just as broken, if not more, than before. It's just a nightmare. I think the core gameplay is actually not that bad. The moveset variety is very small for some characters. There's a lot of jank with, like, attacks you can't parry, being hit off screen, not even being able to see the indicators visibly because there's just so much crap going on. I feel like they could turn it around. It's not the first service game I played that was a mess at launch. Like, you may remember DFO had a lot of problems when it came out. Closers was a mess. PSO2 actually had a relatively decent launch, but there wasn't a lot of content. I hope that they can turn it around. I think that they have a good idea on their side, on their heads, but it's just not in the best state right now. But regardless, I probably will play it at least to level 50. Maybe I'll get like 130 tier items if I can play with people in the Discord and stuff, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, to recap, PSO2 is a big maybe. Maybe once I finish with Avengers, which probably only take a few more days at this point, I might start doing some prep time for the new class, see if I like them, and then if I don't, then I'll probably just shelve this game until New Genesis. And like I said, New Genesis information is going to be in about 2 weeks. Then Memory of Heroes is coming out on the 29th. And then before that, Onichan Bar Origin is going to be out on the 14th. And then Hyrule Warriors. So most of the year is actually pretty much decided. I'm sure there will be some indie games. I am playing a little bit of service games right now, so those will kind of keep things interesting. That's going to be it for now. Looks like it's actually going to be pretty expensive to run this channel in the next few months. So I'm going to go ahead and post my links. What it helps with is kind of dependent. I should be fine for October. I might be able to get a review key for Onichan Bar. Obviously, Kamen Rider is a no-go. I'm going to have to pay for that. It's probably going to be a little bit expensive because of just having to deal with the middlemen for the Southeast Asia PlayStation Store. But I'm actually quite interested in this game. It actually looks like it's going to be the best tokusatsu game we've gotten in a while. There haven't been that many good ones lately, to be honest. It's pretty much been Battle for the Grid and Batride World Genesis, when there were like 3 years between those games. So we'll see. I mean, this game does have the benefit of all the characters in it, all 3 riders. Their series have ended, so they can include all the forms and the moves and stuff. It's not going to be like the Batride War games, where a lot of the characters that were in the series that was currently airing or just barely finished, they had like barely any moves and stuff. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty solid game overall. This is probably going to be the biggest game for me out of the 3, because I know there's going to be very few people making guides for this, and I'm definitely pretty excited for it. So I hope that pleases you guys. In between that, there will be KOF All-Stars. Seems like they're potentially ramping up for some big updates. The next one is going to be a raid, which will potentially be later today, actually. I'm going to try to get the Akane set, and maybe I'll whale on the game if I feel like it. This is a pretty inexpensive month to run the channel. Even if I do play PSO2, it's only going to be like 15 bucks to buy premium again, so that's a drop in the bucket. There's no other games really coming out this month that I'm interested in, so it's pretty much going to be Avengers, KOF, and then probably just some other things that I haven't really quite cleared yet, and maybe some other things as well. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the nice little lineup of games I've got here, or my KOF content, or whatever else you think, my links are in the description. I hope this pleases you all, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.